Welcome to the Organisational Inclusionist. I'm your host, Grace Masuro. In this podcast series, we'll be delving deep into the pressing issues surrounding equality, diversity, and inclusion in both the workplace and the broader world. My goal is to foster understanding, inspire change, and amplify the voices of those advocating for a more inclusive and equitable society. Throughout this series, I'll be engaging in candid discussions with leaders, experts, activists, and changemakers from various fields. We'll explore the challenges, successes, and evolving landscapes of equality, diversity, and inclusion. From dismantling systematic biases to promoting equal opportunities for all, we'll touch on a broad range of topics. But we won't stop at discussing problems. We'll actively seek out solutions and actionable steps to drive positive change. Our aim is to inspire and empower you, our listeners, to take an active role in making the world a better place for everyone. This is the Organisational Inclusionist. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Organisational Inclusionist. This episode, I am joined by TJ Atkinson. TJ is an entrepreneur and a property investor and someone that plans on retiring early. We will get into that in the conversation shortly. But I want to say a massive thank you to TJ for joining. TJ has written a book that he hopes will educate parents on how to ingrain financial literacy for themselves, but also for their children. So I thought it was such an important topic to have on the podcast and to really discuss it, because I do think a number of families in the global majority will benefit from this book. So I wanted to increase the exposure as much as I can. So TJ, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. I'm excited about it.
I bet you are. So for anyone wondering, I have known TJ for over 30 years. So we are childhood friends. So this is probably going to be a little bit different to my other conversations, because it's probably not going to be as serious because TJ's not very serious.
Very true.
But massive thank you. I think your book is really important, like I said in the intro. But before we get stuck in, I'd love it if you could give your own introduction to who you are and the work that you do.
So do you know what? That's probably one of the most popular questions that I get, and I hate it the most because I'm never prepared for it. So I don't know how to introduce myself. I would say I'm an entrepreneur. I run a number of businesses. I'm an aspiring hippie. I call myself the capitalist hippie because I like the idea of making money, but I also love the freedom to do what I want when I want. So if I was to describe myself, I would say I'm this kind of conundrum, or this balance between wealth pursuit or wealth. Oh, Nigerian accent just stinks out sometimes, isn't it? Wealth pursuit and just a fine balance of freedom.
Amazing. And what do you do? So, like, what could people expect to see from you? What are you out here trying to do?
So I'm a full-time property investor. I make my money from property, different property, creative strategies, commercial property, land developments, tons of renovations. But what I'm really focusing on, as I think you mentioned earlier on, my intention is to semi-retire. I don't think I'll ever stop being a property investor. It's in my blood now. I do it in my sleep. But I want to take some time out of that hustle and bustle to take all the information that I've gathered over the last few years and kind of find a way to dump it into every single parent or aspiring parent to make sure that they have an understanding about money, finance, the economy, investing, saving, just the tiny little things that we're all figuring out in our 20s, 30s, and 40s. And if I'm able to kind of take that information, dump it into parents' heads, then parents understand it better and they can find a simple way to kind of pass that information to their children. You would probably admit this, and many of your audience would probably admit this. We're all still figuring out finance in our 30s and 40s. So don't we kind of find a way to make sure our children are not figuring out in our 30s and 40s by being the ones that actually educate them on this topic?
Definitely. So what was the trigger for you, though? What made you decide this book is necessary?
So I wrote an entire book. I was about 150 pages in, and then I went to dinner with one of my friends, actually an old business partner. We're sitting down in this swanky restaurant. We're drinking, we're eating this black cod. with miso sauce. It's absolutely the best thing ever. Yeah, I go chasing black cods all across the country, all across the world, actually. Best one I've had so far.
I know where you were as well.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
But he said something which I was a little bit tipsy, and he said something, and I was more angry that he had cut me off mid-sentence. I think we were talking about Theranos. I don't know if you come across Elizabeth Holmes and the Theranos debacle. You must have. That lady that wears the roll neck that pretends she's Steve Jobs, and she scammed the whole of America by pretending she developed this.
No,
Oh my God, it's the best story in the world.
I want to see it because I love a scammer.
Oh, it's a proper scam. I'm talking about scam in the billions. So, yeah.
Wow.
Either way, so I was talking about her, and he just cut me off. He said, "Oh, did you know that Warren Buffett bought his first investment at the age of 11?" Now, my brain didn't really process what he said. I was more concerned with, bro, listen, I'm talking, man. Like, this is really interesting. Why are you not interested? And all of a sudden, something stopped in my brain. I said, say that again. And he said, yeah, did you know that Warren Buffett bought his first investment at the age of 11? And all I remember is banging on the table saying, oh my God, this is it. This is it. And I talk about this in the book. And he's like, this is what? All I'm saying, I literally went into another world. This is it. This is it. Something happened in my mind, and it made me realize that if we want to understand money, it has to compound. And Warren Buffett talks about compounding all the time, but knowledge compounds. So there was a reason why this man is one of the top 10 richest men in the world. He started at the age of 10 or 11, bought some shares in this company, learned every single thing. Since then, there must be a reason why he is one of the world's richest men. So I bill. I ran away from the restaurant, left it with my friend, and I was staying in a hotel in central London. And I just rebooked my stay for 3 extra days. And I went on my laptop and I drank a whole bottle of wine first, and I deleted 150 pages worth of the book I've been writing, which was financial education for adults in general. And I said, I don't want to I don't want to teach adults about financial education anymore. It's difficult to teach old dogs new tricks. But if Warren Buffett was able to buy his first investment and learn all the lessons he learned as an 11-year-old, that definitely played a part in who he is today. So I deleted every single thing, and I decided I'm going to write a book to help children understand money matters better. But a year into it, and I realized that, hold on, this makes no sense as well. No child goes home from school and says, hey, mum, can I go upstairs and learn about money? It just doesn't happen. All the kids care about is, mum, I want these pair of shoes. Dad, I want these trainers.
1000%.
I want it. And so I decided to change this angle after further research and speaking to other people. And I understand that the most impactful way to cause both parties to have a better understanding of money is to incentivize mum and dad to teach their child. Because mum and dad want what's best for their child, which is financial education. But what do mum and dad care about the most? It's about the child. So if you're able to write a book that teaches mum and dad how to teach child so that child doesn't become dependent or has a better understanding of money, it's quite cyclical. And that's the reason I've written this book this way. The burden is on mum and dad to learn this, so mum and dad at the dinner table, when they're driving the child to school, can say, hey, did you know this? Did you know that? And just drop little bits of nuggets so that the child compounds on that knowledge. So when they pluck and pick out bits of that knowledge.
Amazing. I think it's interesting actually that we're having this conversation now, because just this morning my daughter said, Mommy, what does investing mean? And I told her to go and ask Google. I know how to do it, but how do I describe what it is?
You know what? So you're not wrong. And what I found from speaking to thousands of people, this book I've been writing it for coming up to 2 years, in and out now. You do exactly what most parents do. The fact that you said ask Google is actually better than what most parents do. Most parents pretend they didn't hear the conversation. So again, I talk about this specifically in the book. I said to my mum, how do people become millionaires? And you know my mum. And my mum said, come on, go and wash the dishes. Now imagine I'm looking for a specific answer for a question or a curiosity. And mum's answer is go and wash the dishes. So parents, they realize that is financial education. Really interestingly, not answering a question or not consciously educating your child is still financial education. You're teaching your child that money isn't really super important. You're teaching your child that, you know what, go figure it out yourself. But what we find really interesting is whether you teach your child or not, someone's teaching your children. And guess who the most prominent voice, who the most prominent financial educator for children are right now? Name that one person that you think is the most prominent financial educator for children is today. I bet you won't get it right.
Person, but I think TikTok.
That's an entity, but there's one specific person that you probably do not want to be the go-to educator for young.
Who?
Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is the greatest financial. Did you say who? There's no way you said who. There is no way on this earth you said who.
I've heard his name before, but I can't recall his face. Remind me, who is he?
You don't know who Andrew Tate is. Do you know what? That's a good thing. You must live in a bubble. You don't know who Andrew Tate is.
I definitely live in a bubble.
So Andrew Tate is, you know, most of your audience know who Andrew Tate is. He's this man, bald man, six pack, chats a lot of nonsense. Couple of lessons you can pick up from him, but he's very, I hate to use this word misogynistic. He's just very brash with his delivery and his beliefs. Again, they are. He's been arrested for and going through a court case with regards to assault on women, some level of kidnapping,
Wow.
trafficking. So he's a big name. Like if you ask your daughter who he is, she might not know who he is, maybe his face, but she would know that the boys that she knows know who he is. At this specific
It doesn't know any boys.
oh yes, you better not know any boys.
It doesn't know any boys.
He is at one point, I think in the last couple of years, he was the most searched man on the internet.
Wow.
Now, the reason he's able to get into the minds of many of these young boys is because he's aspirational. So young kids don't really understand the crap that comes out of his mouth, but what they see is the physical attributes. So he's got 10 different Lamborghinis and 12 billion Ferraris. He claims $1 million. He gets any girl of his dreams. So those aspirational things for young teenage guys. So when I'm saying he's the greatest financial educator, the way people learn about money is not necessarily through what they hear, it's what they see. Especially children today, you see your best friend with these shiny trainers, you want it. In fact, it's a psychological phenomenon. That's just how human beings operate. It's called the Joneses theory. You see your next door neighbor just bought a shiny car. Even if you can't afford a shiny car, your brain says, oh, maybe it's time we buy a car because you're everyone else. So when Andrew Tate is showing and demonstrating this ability to make money, or demonstrating, he has this saying that, you know, if you don't have any money, you're a brokey. And that's a typical popular term amongst these young kids, that you're broke, you're poor if you haven't got money. He's the one that's showing children what money actually is right now. And what I want to really emphasize to a lot of parents is, even if you don't even know who Andrew Tate is, forget about Andrew Tate for the meantime. The first answer you gave is actually one of the answers: social media. Social media is a greater educator, financial educator for your children than most parents are.
Yeah.
Most parents don't understand money enough to have the conversation with their kids about money. So the kids pick it up subconsciously, but they pick it up consciously from what they see. So when they see a 17-year-old that's claiming to be a billionaire, then they start to feel bad about themselves. They say, well, I'm 17 or I'm 16 and I'm nowhere close. This is why I say that financial education is solely the responsibility of the parent, not schools, not society, no one else. It's of the parent, because you can find that balance between, hey, pursue money, but also be a good human being at the same time. Work hard, also there's a balance. Know that money isn't everything. Know that making money is good, but also make money so you can help other people and change other people's lives. There has to be that balance, and it has to come from the home, which is why parents how to understand money a little bit better, so that you can drop tiny little bits of knowledge. You don't have to know it fully. So when your child says, Mum, what's investing? You should know it to a basic degree, to look as if you are the expert, because no child follows someone that's not an expert. Everyone wants leadership. Your kids will allow you to lead them in providing and protecting. But when it comes down to, your kids will not allow you to lead them when it comes down to science and maths, because they know that their teacher knows best. So in this case, you've got to come across as if you know best so that they follow your lead with regards to money. So what is what is investing in the book, which I literally deal with things like that. So it could be a matter of how do you get your daughter to understand investing? Very simple what I've done with my niece. If we go shopping and she says, "Oh, I love those Nike trainers," I'm going to say, "Do you know how many Nike trainers you have? You should at this stage, you should bloody own Nike." She's like, "Oh, I can't own Nike. How? Well, of course not. I don't own Nike." "Oh, what do you mean? Oh, you didn't know you could own Nike? Oh, come here, come here, come here." And you open an app and you say, "Okay, look, I'm going to give you £10, but I'm going to buy some Nike shares for you." "Oh, your favorite brand is Boohoo, or your favorite brand is whatever these young kids wear nowadays. Do you know what? You could buy some of that. You could own that company." And that's what I've done with Savannah, my niece. Anytime she wants anything, I say the same joke all the time that she can even finish it now. "Oh, you want Nike trainers for Christmas? Oh, you should own Nike." And then we open up the app and I show her how to invest. So those are the tiny little things, but you've got to know it in order to be the expert to your child.
Yeah, so the challenge we've got, like, I know this, having been a child myself, but also having a 12-year-old at the moment, is children are very much about instant gratification. So one of the things I really struggled with my child is getting her to understand the benefit of investing now for the future. Because she's like, "No, but I want to buy something now." And it's like, "Okay, but if you buy this, it will compound and it'll be worth so much more in the future, and then you'll be able to use that money." She's like, "Yeah, but then what can I use now?" So it's very, very instant gratification. So that's one of the things that I've really struggled with in terms of getting her. Let me not even try and take ownership. If I'm honest, her dad is the one that tries to get her to invest her money, and she's just not there yet. So, which is why she's asking me the question, what is investment? And why is daddy telling me that I should invest this £5 instead of buying chewing gum?
Yeah. So I tell this story in my book about my mum. Many years ago, my mum was driving down the road. She had finished work. It was evening time. She was driving and she saw someone's car that had kind of semi-crashed. It was kind of parked sideways in the middle of the road. She put lights on. She parks behind the car and she goes to help the person. The person's unconscious. The person had probably had a fit or they were unconscious. My mum's a nurse. My mum's helping out the person, and all she hears behind her is bang! Someone hits my mum's car. The police get called, and they find out that our papers aren't kind of up to scratch. So now we're facing a near deportation situation because my mum wanted to help someone conscious. So the reason I talk about that in the story is what my mum felt afterwards was she was being punished for doing a good deed. And that's exactly the issue that a lot of parents have. You want to educate your child on money matters, but it should never feel like punishment. Your children, and I'm probably the only financial coach in the world that's going to say your children should be able to have whatever they want, because we talk about assets and liabilities, but the reality is people say never buy liabilities, but that makes no sense. How can you survive on this earth? How can a child not buy a pair of trainers? How can they not buy a fancy pair of shoes that they want? So what you've got to do is find that fine balance between allowing your child not to feel punished for something you want them to do. No child wants to be financially literate. They don't know anything about it. You want them to be financially literate. So when we're saying your daughter should invest her money, it's not her money. It should be your money. You've got to say, okay, well, you've just made £5. In an ideal world, you should invest that £5. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to invest this £5 on your behalf. And what you're trying to do, because you're right about instant gratification, what I do with my nieces is when I invest, I specifically invest in companies that I know have a high trajectory and they're likely to go up. So I can go back and see them in a month and say, hey, you see that £10 that we put into this company? It's now £11. That's the instant gratification. They haven't lost out. They still get to spend their money, but you're educating them as to, hey, opportunity cost. If you had taken that £5 that I wanted you to take, I used my money, but if you had taken your £5, your £5 will now be worth £7. And it's the seed. You don't really want to invest in right now. You would want them to in an ideal world, but the reality is they shouldn't feel punished or penalized for something you want. It's like you wanting your child to be a doctor. Your child wants to be a TikTok dancer. You want your child to be a doctor, and you're saying, well, you must study every single day. And we know what tends to happen. We know they're going to reject it, they're going to repel it, and they're going to maybe hold you accountable and maybe, you know, rebel against it. So there has to be that fine balance. But I've got a couple of tricks. In one of the chapters, I talk about this thing called an OD tax, so a 1-day tax. You understand that. You're old enough to understand, not you specifically, but your audience are old enough to know. That yeah, take it back. We're all young. We're all in our 20s. How income tax works in the UK is you go to work, you work, and the government take their tax from your salary, and then the rest is deposited in your account. What I ask parents to do is tell a small lie to your child. And people are like, I can't lie to my kids. Well, you don't have to lie to your kids. And if you choose not to lie to your kids, then they're not going to be financially educated, or they're not going to be prepared for the future. So what I say is, look, we've got personal tax, which is income tax. We've got corporation tax. We've got VAT. We've got all of these taxes that we've got to pay. So you teach your children about all of these taxes. So when your child is saying, oh, mum, what is VAT? You can tell your child what VAT is. And when you're talking about VAT, you can talk about other taxations as well. What I'm asking parents to do is to add one additional tax. It's made up. This OD tax, 1-day tax. You add it there as part of what you're teaching them. Personal tax, corporation tax, NI, VAT, OD tax. Right from when you're teaching them about taxes. So as they grow up, they believe that this taxation is a real governmental tax. So anytime they make any money, whether it's £100, they know straight away that the government require them to take 10%, which is this OD tax, and they are mandated, it's a requirement to invest that money. Do you get my point? So what we're doing, we're quantifying this belief that there is this additional tax that they must pay. And if you do it from when they're young, then it becomes a habit, and they're forced to take 10% out of whatever they earn, and they automatically have to invest it because they believe it is a must. But if you give someone a choice, the choice is, I want to spend my money on sweets. But if you tell them that it's mandated, then they are forced to put it aside. And yes, you're lying to your children, but it's for their own benefit. And then if we invest that money, you're looking at putting £100 a month, £10 a month, that compounds into £2,000 or £3,000 by the time they're 18, depending on the amount of money you put in. That £2,000 gives them the advantage. It allows them to buy their first car. It allows them to put a deposit on their first rental property. It's just financial education has to come from you understanding this stuff so that you can find little nuggets. That's where the change comes from.
Yeah. I don't know that, especially in the world of Google, I don't know if we can get away with the 1-day tax, because I think kids are wild with just how they use the internet at the moment. But one of the things that really stands out to me is, some organizations, they will say that they'll match your pension payments, for example. So potentially using that type of approach with our kids is that if you put in £2.50, I will put in double that or 3 times that into an investment for you. So they know that every time they put money in, mummy or daddy are going to top it up. So they're actually making money automatically because they've made that commitment.
No child, there is not one child, again, I hate to keep plugging my book, but there is not one child that I know, unless you have a very special child in your hand, there is not one child that cares about their financial future. Because as long as they are under your roof, they believe that you are their financial future and you are their sustenance and you are their provider. So even saying to a child, you know what, you put £5 in, I'll put £5 in. It means absolutely nothing. So what might be a bit more effective is, okay, you put £5 in and I will give you £5 to spend. Yeah. There's got to be, as you mentioned, they need immediately. There's got to be something immediate. So again, something I talk about when it comes down to investing is you encourage your child that whatever gifts that they get, whatever amount of money that they get, they take something out of that. It could be a small amount, because most people don't know that you could buy £1 share. So I'm a child to spend £100 on Nike shares. I'm saying you could buy £1 worth of Nike shares. So anything they ever want to buy, your job is to say, by the way, rather than doing that, buy what you want, because you can't stop them, and you shouldn't stop them from buying those things, but you need to add or include some sort of education with it. So, hey, your trainers cost 150 quid, no problem at all. Well, next time you make any money, you need to put £1.50 into buying some Nike shares. There's got to be education as part of it, but it's not stopping them, because the stopping them will put them off money.
Yeah.
The stopping them will stop them from speaking to you about money, and you want them to be curious about money. You want them to be say, Mum, well, how does it actually work? Because, You know, we keep hearing about this cost of living crisis, but we're still living a good life. You need to understand what inflation is. You need to be able to say, well, inflation means the value of your money is worth less because the cost of goods are going up. Well, mum, if we're losing money just because we have money, then that means we're going to be poor. Then your job is to say, well, the only way to beat inflation is to invest. You've got to know it so you can link it back to everything. Well, mum, what about let's Mark Zuckerberg, he's worth 37 billion pound. Oh, his bank account must be really healthy. Well, no, child. Well, he's worth X amount because he owns this company, and this company's on the stock market. Oh, what is the stock market? Oh, now let me tell you about it. You just need to have a basic understanding so that anything that they say, your brain is firing on all cylinders, so you can at least have a financial lesson. I don't care about your children having £1 million in their account before they turn 18. What I think is much more powerful is the seeds have been sown so that when they do turn 18, they understand that debt can cripple them.
Yeah.
They understand that, listen, if you don't understand money better, if you don't invest, then when it comes down to pension age, you're going to suffer. Those are the kind of things we're trying to just sow a seed so that we're raised as Christians. And
I've got an idea for your next book. So the next book is essentially just a book that explains what these investment words mean, or just financial literacy words. So almost like a dictionary or something, but a financial literacy one for kids. So what is an investment or investment and what that means? Compound interest, what that means. Things that children will ask their parents at some point, but also things that you think they should know. And literally just
write the book
just
for
the definitions.
no. So
Sorry?
you're saying write the book for parents so that parents know how to or write it for kids.
For kids. So when I was younger, I remember my mum I'd ask my mum questions similar to the question my daughter asked me. But back in my day, we didn't have Google. So my mum sent me to the dictionary, right? And that used to take ages.
Yeah.
But because I did the work of going through the book and spending the time and reading it, it really landed for me. But also it was my dictionary. I felt like I'd done the work to learn it, and I felt like I was learning something. So my mum was quite clever with that. But I think that a book like that, so I recently got a book called The Little Black Book, a Blactionary.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jane and Maggie. But you could do your own little black book, financial literacy terms or something.
So I've written a whole book literally in front of me here. It's called I can't remember what it's called
Don't
either.
delete this one.
Oh no, I am going to delete. I'll tell you why. I have it on good ground. In fact, I've got it right in front of me. I'll tell you exactly what it's called. It's called Money Matters: Why Today's Seed is Tomorrow's Tree, and it's a book, and it's about 100 pages long. I'm never going to release this book. Never. This book will never come out because I also understand realistically that children are not sitting around studying money. It's a futile attempt. Children are not sitting around trying to study money. Now, when you said you were younger and you sat down and read the dictionary, children are, listen, darling, you're about, how old are you? 46? No, I'm joking.
None of your business. And how dare you? I'm not joking.
No.
No offense to anyone that is.
No, I'm playing around. These children are completely different.
Yeah, you're right.
So, but interestingly, say to your daughter today, go and learn how money is created. She's not going to do it unless you incentivize her. So
She will do it. She'll go and ask Alexa.
Oh, see. I agree with you. These kids are totally different.
They are. They really are. So obviously we grew up, we had very similar upbringings, right? And I was never taught about money by my parents. Like my parents, literally their everyday thing was just about making sure we had enough, right? It was never abundant. It was never, you can have whatever you like. I was always given what I needed, never what I wanted.
Yeah.
Like there was never a day where I went shopping and bought whatever I liked. No, it was, okay, your jeans are too small, let's go and replace them.
Yeah.
That was it. So, but what do you think is the reason for that? Like, why did our parents not give us this financial education growing up? What do you think the barriers were for them?
So many of our parents are operating on survival. There are some communities that are lucky, they've settled into the UK. They've got parents who have grandparents who have lived, they've bought a house. Mum knows what when grandma dies, mum's going to inherit a house. Child knows when mum dies, they're going to inherit mum's house. So there is a financial stability, whether you're financially stable or not. Mentally, there's a financial stability. Group of people that come from a place of just first generation. This is their first time being here. They don't know about investing. They know about surviving. My child is not bullied at school. So it's not how do I make sure my child has everything? How do I make sure my child doesn't have holes in their school uniform? How do I make sure that I can at least feed my family? So investing is not a common part of your thinking. But I've been doing some further research into this, and it's so fascinating. I don't know if you and I have ever had this conversation before. Have you come across this thing called intergenerational trauma?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it fascinates me. So let me tell you this story. Again, I talk about it in my book. It's one of the most fascinating things I've ever come across. So this guy called Brian Diaz and Ken Ressler, two Canadian psychologists or psychiatrists, and they took, this is just my rendition, I'm simplifying it so you guys understand. They took like granddaddy mice, yeah, and they introduced this granddaddy mice to a specific smell. Let's call this smell like nail polish. The smell of nail polish is quite strong and quite. They introduced this granddaddy mice to nail polish smell, and every time granddaddy mice smelt that smell, they gave it an electric shock.
Yeah.
So they conditioned that mice to that smell and the shock. They then took some semen, some sperm from this granddaddy mice, and then they skipped a generation, and then they inserted that semen into, let's say, mother mice. They then let mother mice have some babies. They then introduced grandbaby mice to that same smell. And grandbaby mice had the same physical, visceral reaction that granddaddy mice had, even though grandbaby mice had never met granddaddy mice. Simply meant was fear can be passed down through generations. Data can be passed down through generations. A restructuring of DNA. Literally, fear was taken from one generation passed on to the other. Now, if we look at it further, these two researchers have gone further to talk about trauma that family members have experienced many, many years ago can easily be passed down. And even if we don't think about it from a molecular or a DNA level, think about what parents are saying. So grandparents come from no money. What are they saying to their child? They're saying, listen, save every single penny that you have because you don't know when it's going to disappear. Or money doesn't grow on trees. So all these narratives, all these words are being passed down from one generation to the other. And guess what? The next generation believe it. So what do? They pass it down to the next generation. And we carry on passing it down. But there's no conversation about investing. There's no putting away money for the future. It's just survive. And that's why our parents never spoke to us about the future, because they were concerned about now, because their parents were concerned about now, and their grandparents were concerned about now. And this is why the burden is on us who know better to change and shift that narrative. Otherwise, it carries on continuing. I talk about some of the lies that our parents have told us, and I know you're probably guilty of some of these. These are just simple lies that we've told our children that we believe from our parents. So let's see. Let me get some of them up. Have you ever said to have you ever said to your daughter, if you wee in a swimming pool, it's going to change colour? Have you ever said that?
No, I've just said it's disgusting.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. All right. What about if you cross your eyes like this, it's going to stay like that? Yeah.
I've not done that one, but I said to her recently that if she keeps her face screw up, then if the wind changes, it will stay like that. And she's like, no, it won't.
Spot on. What else? Oh, there we go. Cracking your knuckles would lead to arthritis. Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah, of course you believe that because your parents.
Oh, I told her that.
But it's not true. Oh, if you eat an orange seed, it's going to grow inside your stomach. I still do that with my 7-year-old niece. Yeah. Eating carrots help you see in the dark. See these tiny little things like.
Is that not true?
It's not true.
Are you serious?
It's definitely not true. But these are tiny.
Oh my gosh.
These are tiny things that our parents did them like innocently, but we believe them and we pass them down. So now let's look at some of the other lies, myths that our parents would have told us, that their parents told us, that we're innocent, but they're not true. For example, all debt is bad. Those are tiny little narratives that our parents would have mistakenly taught us, and not realizing that there is such thing as good debt and bad debt. And wealth is created by the utilization, in many cases, of debt. Then we get told the bank is the best place to keep your money. That's also not true. The banks take your money, they utilize it, they give you a measly interest rate. They give you 1% or 2%, and then they lend out your money to someone on a mortgage at 7% or 8%. Another one, the bank is the safest place to put your money. That's also not the truth. Another one that's very popular is you shouldn't talk to other people about money. That's a very British thing. How dare you speak about money at the dinner table?
I don't know if it's just British though, because I don't feel like Nigerians do it much either.
Well, I mean, that's what we're taught. Just don't talk to other people about money. But guess what? Wealthy people have big old dinner money parties where they sit down and their legs have their cigar and say, John, old boy, what are you investing in now? And John says, I'm investing in this return. And then the other person says, well, how can I get involved? But poor people are keeping quiet. You've got 24 pence in your account, but you're not talking to anyone. So you're going to have 23 pence by next year. And then you say the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. But the rich are getting richer because they're having these conversations. And then lastly, there are people believe that you have to have a lot of money to invest. But that's also not. Now you can invest in the stock market with just £1. You can invest in the stock market with 10 pence. Every single month, I put £25 per month into the stock market for my nieces. That money is now £900. If I carry on before they turn 18, based on, let's say, 5% growth, that money could be £5,000 that I give them and say, there you go. So you don't need a lot of money to do anything. Even property, you don't need a lot of money. But it's this shift, it's this narrative that we've got to change. All debt is not bad.
Definitely.
What is bad debt? What is good debt? That's it.
Thank you. So, what would your call to action be for any of our listeners wanting to develop their financial literacy so that they can better educate their kids?
So, I know this is a popular question when people say, oh, how do I get into property? How do I get into investing? And I always say, well, it's not necessarily knowledge is the beginning of everything. But a mindset shift is the foundation for everything. So there are actually a bunch of people that want to be wealthy, a bunch of people that want to learn about money, a bunch of people that want their children to be financially literate. But the vast majority of people don't even believe that they deserve to be wealthy. So if you deserve to be wealthy, what's going to come out of your mouth is never going to be positive, or is never going to be conducive enough to encourage or inspire your younger ones. So what you've got to do is, number one, write a list of all your money narratives. These are all the things you believe about money, which stems from what your mum or your dad told you about money. So if you've ever heard your parents, I say this confidently, if you've ever heard your parents say this in any variation, the love of money is the root of all evil, or, I know that's biblical, or money is the root of all evil, there is a likely chance that you've got to work on your money mindset. Because if your parents, no one's ever said money is the root of all evil in a positive sentence. They've always said it as a way to say, be humble, look at that money too much. And every single child looks up to their parents. So if mum's always bashing the rich, there is no child that wants to go against how mum feels about the rich. So naturally, you become subservient and you're like, oh, well, mum thinks being rich is a bad thing. Oh, no wonder I don't care about money. Oh, no, you know what? I don't need to be rich. And you believe that as your new narrative. So we've got to write down everything that we believe about money. I'm always going to be poor. That's many people's narrative. I don't deserve to be rich. I can never be rich. You write them down and then we face them one by one. Where does it come from? And what we need to do is replace it. There is a book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shard Helmstetter. One of my favorite books in this world. It helps you catch your narratives, because we're always having conversations and dialogues in our minds. It helps you catch your narrative and it helps you figure out what words to use to replace those. So once we replace those, and the way we can replace those is through affirmations, such as, I deserve to be wealthy. I am wealthy. I am a money magnet. Money is attracted to me. I'm attracted to money. And you trick your brain to start believing it. You wake up and the first thing you say is, I get money. I'm attracted to money.
That sounds like a rap.
Yeah. I was about to.
Money.
Yeah. I just thought the audience is a bit professional, so I was about to bust into a whole rap. But we've got to
I love that.
first. Once we change that first, and our brain starts opening up and says, do you know what? Maybe we can actually start having a conversation about allowing you or permitting you to make money. Your brain is the master computer. And the
Yeah,
way
definitely.
through affirmations, and number two, start studying about money. And the more you open yourself up to learning about money, you start to deal with those issues. And when you start to deal with those issues, you can start taking action, because your brain allows you to take action when it's been introduced to this new narrative. That's what I
Definitely.
start with first.
Definitely. So I want to say a massive thank you to you for a number of things. Like, firstly, I know a lot of people are going to take away some significant things that they want to do going forward to educate themselves so that they can better educate their kids. We want to leave generational trauma, but also lack of generational financial literacy in the past. I want to say a massive thank you for letting me know today also that carrots don't help you see in the dark,
They
because that
lie.
has legit changed my life.
Absolutely. And don't pass that lie to your kids.
At all. But no, seriously, thank you. It's been awesome having you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much.